So, today we're going to dive into a really provocative theory, one that asks a pretty fundamental question. What if we've been looking at cancer all wrong? This idea, which is laid out by Dr. Eric Berg, suggests that on a deep molecular level, cancer acts, well, exactly like a parasite.
And it all kicks off with this absolutely incredible claim. I mean, think about it. A drug for parasitic worms, something that costs just a few dollars, reportedly sending 3 people with stage 4 cancer into complete remission. That, right there, it just begs a huge question.
Right? How on earth could a drug for worms possibly have an effect on cancer? Well, to even begin to understand this theory, we've got to break down how cancer cells actually work and, more importantly, what they have in common with some of the oldest, most primitive life forms on our planet.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with some pretty shocking statistics that really show why this conversation is so urgent right now. Then we'll get into cancer's ancient, kind of backward engine. From there, we'll explore this really surprising parasite connection and how it might reveal a major weakness. We're also going to ask that big, obvious question: why isn't this theory more widely known? And finally, we'll bring it all back home to the most powerful weapon we all have, our own body's defense system.
Before we jump into the how, it's really important to understand the why. The whole context for why people are even looking for these new approaches. And the truth is, the landscape of cancer is changing, especially for younger people.
According to the source material, there has been a staggering 79% jump in cancer cases for folks under 50, just in the last 30 years. And get this, colorectal cancer, back in the 90s, was the 4th leading cause of cancer death in young men. Today, it's number 1. So, how does this all link back to the parasite theory? Well, to get there, we need to first look under the hood at cancer's engine. And for that, we have to go back almost 100 years to a Nobel Prize-winning discovery about how cancer cells fuel themselves. And spoiler alert, it's totally different from our healthy cells.
Now, what's so fascinating here is just how ridiculously inefficient cancer is. See, our healthy cells, they use their mitochondria, their little energy factories, to squeeze 36 units of energy out of a single unit of glucose. Super efficient. Cancer cells, though, they use this ancient, primitive backup system and only get 2 units of energy. That means they are incredibly wasteful and just ravenously hungry for sugar. This primitive survival mode is called glycolysis. And this insane appetite for sugar is precisely why a PET scan works. You get injected with radioactive sugar, and the cancer cells, because they're gobbling it up at such a massive rate, they just light up like a Christmas tree on the scan, showing exactly where they're hiding in the body. So here's the crucial point. This ancient sugar-guzzling engine, it's not actually unique to cancer. And this is where the theory makes its most surprising connection. It suggests that cancer is literally using the exact same survival playbook as parasites and fungi. And this slide, it just perfectly lays out the core argument. According to the source, researchers believe they've found 3 identical survival systems across all these different life forms. First, they all build an internal scaffolding to help them divide like crazy. Second, they all put up a little "don't kill me" sign to hide from our immune system. And third, they all rely on that super inefficient glycolysis for their fuel. So if cancer, parasites, and fungi are all using the same survival machinery, it kind of stands to reason that something designed to break a parasite's machinery, well, it just might work on cancers too. So the theory goes that anti-parasite drugs like fenbendazole and ivermectin, and even some natural things like wormwood, they target these exact 3 things. The claim is that they come in, break that internal scaffolding to stop the cells from dividing, they rip off that "don't kill me" badge so our own immune system can finally see them and attack, and they cut off that glycolysis pathway to basically starve the cells. Okay, this all sounds pretty remarkable, right? Which, of course, leads to the most obvious question of all. If there is even a shred of potential here, why isn't this being shouted from the rooftops and studied in major clinical trials? This is the real puzzle, isn't it? Why isn't this a top research priority? Well, the source we're explaining today offers a few potential reasons. The argument presented is really an economic one. See, these drugs are old. Their patents expired a long, long time ago, which means they're now super cheap generics. And there's just very little financial incentive for a big pharmaceutical company to spend, say, $100 million on a clinical trial for a drug they can't make much money from.
Because of that, the research that does exist is pretty limited to small university labs and individual case studies, without the big, expensive trials needed for mainstream acceptance.
And the source points to a recent study as a little piece of evidence for this potential. In this study, they found that fenbendazole led to 100% survival in mice by targeting the cancer stem cells. Those are the really nasty seeds that can survive chemo and grow back tumors. And that was compared to 0% survival in the mice that didn't get the treatment.
Now look, regardless of any one particular theory or any experimental treatment, the source emphasizes something really important. The most powerful weapon against cancer is, and it always has been, your very own immune system. And here's the great part. There are real, actionable things you can do to support it. The source lays out 4 key strategies to beef up your body's killer T cells and natural killer cells. Making sure you have high vitamin D levels, practicing regular and even prolonged fasting, really prioritizing high-quality sleep, and getting consistent exercise. These are presented as the absolute foundation for your body's natural defenses. At the end of the day, this whole theory really forces us to rethink the nature of the disease itself. It paints cancer not as some modern glitch in our system, but as a throwback, a reversion to a very ancient, very primitive survival mechanism. And it leaves us with this one last question. If this ancient playbook is real, what other fundamental secrets about our health and about disease might be hiding right out there in plain sight?